something that we all need to understand.
Okay.
When you're talking about Chicago violence, let me just start off by saying one thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Chicago violence is something that's been in the making for the past 50 years. Now, when you say 50 years, the first thing that you think is, oh my God, what is that, 50s, 60s? No. 50 years ago was 1970. So that's not that far apart. I feel that the crime in Chicago is a controlled experiment to exterminate the black population in order to repopulate Chicago with Caucasians and other ethnic groups that they feel is suitable for city living.
Sounds a lot like gentrification.
Gentrification, but if gentrification was part of the purge. Because what I truly feel, I feel this has too many insidious things that going on with it. Like, for instance, we all talk about the Bay truck. We talk about the 73 shootings that was going on. But I just want y'all to challenge our minds to understand how many people do you feel was arrested after these 73 shootings that happened just a week ago? Just tell me that. Oh, if you were on my page, you can actually go to the Brothers Podcast and check it out on the Brothers Podcast, okay? From my page, okay? So, how many people do you think that was captured, arrested for the 73 shootings?
Not one single one.
Do you know how many cameras? Do you know how many sound trackers? Do you know how many voice recording systems that's in the city of Chicago? Chicago is one of the biggest metropolitan cities in the United States of America. Yeah. And it's enforced with security just like one of the biggest cities. Yeah. So you really think if it was 73 shootings going on, and I'm not even saying that 73 people didn't get hurt, but what I'm telling you is, if you really think that low-level gang members, quote unquote, was the cause of 73 shootings happening in Chicago, do you think that no one or no camera would have picked it up? And there's a camera on every single corner in the city of Chicago. There's motion detectors on every single corner in the city of Chicago. You have certain instruments that if you shoot a gun, they have the ability to track the sound where it originally came from in the city of Chicago. But you're going to sit here and tell me that no one knows how these 73 people died. And said, well, I don't know if 73 people died, but these 73 people were either critically wounded or died. There is no way possible in this big metropolitan city that could have happened without the help or assistance of the government.
Or you can not be aware about it either. The thing is, there's a lot of people don't understand that they're acting like they don't know that there's a fight going on, or they don't know what exactly it is. There's way too much media coverage, but there's not enough explanation as to why. And you want to know, and then people are just sitting there wondering, like, oh my God, what is this happening? Why is this happening? And it's just, they know. Trust me, they know. They know exactly how the system works. This is the system. And here's the thing, though. This is not something that's new. This is very much almost systemic in a way. This has been going on. This is a simple, I look at it as a very simple gentrification system. Okay.
I think it's much more than gentrification because, like I said, it's insidious. And when you say insidious, it means that it has cruel intentions for a specific demographic. And the African American demographic is the ones that's being targeted. Why? The census is off as far as how many African Americans there truly are, especially in the city of Chicago. City of Chicago, African Americans are the majority. I know they say that we're the minority, but we are the majority in the city of Chicago.
How much would a percentage would you say we would make up in the city?
I would say we would make up about 68%, between 60 and somewhere in the high 60s.
So okay. So let's basically
we are the majority.
So let's say to say that Chicago is predominantly black.
Chicago is a predominantly black city, and Chicago is a microcosm of the predominant cities in America. Because when you're dealing with the Clevelands, when you're dealing with just Midwest cities, Detroit, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Chicago, Cincinnati, Midwestern cities, we are the predominant people in the Midwest. And there is a reason why black people are being targeted. And this alludes back to the Chicago violence. The Chicago violence is controlled. Because like I said, 73 gang members ain't shoot 73 people, because it'd be 73 people in jail if that was the case. It is a controlled violence in order to exterminate the people of Chicago, meaning the black people of Chicago. So when you're thinking about this, and the reason why I'm saying it like this, because I want to challenge you to stop looking at this as we need to put the guns down. If you hear another 92.3 reference to put the guns down, you need to go to that goddamn radio station and say, listen, stop feeding us this bull. If
You know what's funny about that is they got notorious rappers who are known for gun violence dropping these advertisements tell you to put the guns down.
It's the most hypocritical stuff I ever seen in my life. And
Now I understand that.
it's a runaround. It's the ring around the rosy. Only thing it is a distraction, because if the guns need to be put down, and stop putting the guns into the communities in the back alleys. There are so many evidence. There's so many incidents of guns being dropped off in the neighborhood of Roseland, in the neighborhood of West Pullman, in the neighborhood of the Backyards, Pocket Town, that people have documented, show camera instances of these people putting inside of the neighborhood. And I'm pretty sure a dude named Ray Ray ain't the ones who's dropping out crates of foreign ammunition.
Remember when they talked about how this is a Trump-free zone? You know what I mean? You might wonder how much of an impact that really means when they say this is a Trump-free zone. Because, you know, obviously Trump is not pro-black. So the labeling of this being a Trump-free zone may seem like it's more systemic of we, as a people, control the majority of the city, which means we control a lot of power in the city, which means now they can go and start dwindling that down.
No, we don't control any power in the city, and that's by design. This is where the Chicago violence, I feel, kicks in at, because that is a part of the reason why. You have to, it's one of the fundamental principles of the art of war, divide and conquer. You have people that have the majority ethnic group in the city of Chicago, no matter what the census say, no matter what CBS, CNN, or ABC says, we are the majority. In order to make sure that these people don't unite and not only take over physically, but that ain't where it is, because you can kill 6 more cops and 6 cops will replace them. I'm not ever advocating that. Well, I'm going to take that back, but we're going to go a little further in there. All I'm saying is not physically to come together, but politically come together. Because if you got millions of people in the city of Chicago that's able to fund lobbyists in order to pass bills that can go inside of our communities, that can help our communities, that can pass initiatives that can go inside of our communities and give this 1 out of 5 African American male a job. Because everybody knows that when crime goes up, jobs are going down. And when jobs go up, crime goes down. That is just a fundamental fact of economics.
Well, that also brings us to the point I was going to ask about how does this change the landscape of this city? And you just get, like, how does it change the landscape as far as the job market, as you just alluded to a little bit, the residential market, which we know is a big factor into it because it's mostly always seems to be about real estate, and the cultural the cultural landscape.
Well, first of all, there are no jobs in the city of Chicago by design, because you have to starve the people out in order for them to go in all different directions, meaning the suburbs. You can tell that there's no jobs on a man level and on a woman level. There are the data, they're doing this with Section 8 housing. They will tell you, listen, I will give you Section 8 housing and you don't have to wait on the waiting list for a year. We can give you right now Section 8 housing. The only thing is you got to move far out of the city of Chicago for the year.
And we've had plenty of friends that are dealing with this. Friends that are dealing with this right now.
Going to Gurney, going to Schaumburg, going to Gurney, going to Barrows, going all northern suburbs from the city of Chicago.
Because you're pushing them out of the metropolitan area.
And why do you think you're pushing them out of it?
Because the metropolitan area is a high property value area.
And that's something that Chicago black people just don't understand. We got one of the worst neighborhoods, quote unquote, that people say is in the city of Chicago, which is Inglewood. The Dan Ryan runs completely straight through there. Do you know when you're on the highway from Inglewood, you can see downtown Chicago? Downtown Chicago is about 10 minutes away from Inglewood.
Minus the traffic. The traffic would be a bitch.
Even with traffic, I would give it 20 minutes. That's different from coming all the way to Country Club Hills.
Yeah.
That's different from if you have to travel to Niles. Especially with the taxes, people don't want to be in Niles in these other suburbs.
Right.
So you have all this prime real estate that's sitting here that because of redlining, black people were pushed into these neighborhoods. But now the market value it hasn't went up. And this is going to allude back to the Chicago violence. But you got prime real estate sitting here. What's a way to get these black people out? You create a famine that will cause the black people to have to turn on each other. Because one thing we know, you take out the money, you take out the jobs, you take out the fathers out of the homes, violence is going to occur. You create this. Also, you create a media frenzy that's going to tell you, listen, these black people are out of control. They need for people to come in and take care of them. We need militias. We need FEMA. You create this frenzy, and you create the media that's looking at them and saying, you know what, we need them to be taken care of. You got people co-signing with Trump. These goddamn pastors, these coon pastors that's saying we got to get the body count down in Chicago. Not understanding that it could be the militias that the government is sending into Chicago that's causing the Chicago violence in the first place. So you have a 50-year-old plan that's coming into effect right now. Now, a little bit later, I'm gonna give you the actual plans that they're giving you in order for the Chicago crime to increase, so that they can get the black people out of Chicago, so they can take back over this real estate.
Here's a prime example, and that's not just Inglewood. Now, we're also talking about the west side of Chicago, which is probably even worse, because that's where the majority of this is coming from. And I'll tell you like a prime example. I had my great grandmother or great auntie, God rest her soul. When she had to go downtown, she had to take the bus. She chose not to drive. She chose to take the bus. We stayed off Cicero and Chicago Avenue. Chicago Avenue bus is about a 25 to 30 minute bus ride, if less, straight to downtown. Dropped her off probably, I think, really close to the Daily Center. She had to go downtown to City Hall. So the west side of Chicago is a very high value area as well. That's where I was born and raised. So.
Because 290 flows straight through.
Exactly. So it's a very high, so it's actually probably one of the more, you already see it right now in West End, West Loop. You see it currently going down in Inglewood. Hyde Park has kind of always been like that. But you also see in Bronzeville, it's starting to get built up now. Because these are already the areas that have been affected, that have already mostly the African Americans that have already been pushed out of them.
Right.
Like how the projects downtown have been torn down. Remember that?
Yeah.
When the Greens got torn down, that was part of the whole plan.
Right.
We all knew that was the reason for that was happening. And they're pushing Cabrini Greens, all the residents into the overpopulated neighborhoods and the Lower East Side, and then send them some of the South Side, the South suburbs, so on the Country Club Hills, to Dalton, to Harvey. It's like I said, systemic.
And when you say systemic, what do you mean by systemic?
It's part of the process because it's